My name is Justin Voigt, and I am a knife maker and hand engraver located in Oklahoma City. I've been engraving. I took my first class in March. I started my engraving journey in 2019. At the end of 2019, I built um, my own engraving handpiece. It didn't work out too well, and I kind of didn't really take it up again until 2021. Um, I had picked it up and put it down from time to time, but not having a good base, not understanding that one of the most important parts of engraving is learning the basics. Um, I found it very frustrating and difficult, to say the least. Difficult to make cuts, difficult to follow the scroll lines. I think one of the main things that I was doing wrong is I wasn't sharpening correctly. Sharpening is by far one of the most important aspects of learning to hand engrave. So after I took my first class in March, or that would be March 2022, with Ray Cover in Missouri, things really opened up. I began to understand the basics of hand engraving. Ray is an incredible teacher, very patient, very kind, very helpful, and a lot of practical, real world knowledge that I feel like for any hand engraver is important, especially at the first, to set your expectations um, where they're reasonable, where you know there are certain things that you're going to have to do and certain techniques that you're going to have to learn to be able to get to the place where maybe an engraver would begin to feel like a real engraver. And what I mean by that is to have marketable and real skills. So once I took this class, came back and began to practice on my own knives, but a ton and a ton of practice plates. Um, I gained a better understanding of hand engraving, and it's helped me a lot to really push my work forward. Just with the cleanliness and the time spent at the bench, because you can't discount actual time spent at the bench engraving. It's essential to growth. So the more time you spend at the bench engraving, the better you're going to be. Now you can see here, this would be the third Spyderco bird knife that I've engraved. Wonderful knives to engrave. The metal is very soft. Um, it doesn't break a lot of my tips. You know, you have to resharpen normally, but it's not super hard. Stainless steel, it cuts really well. Uh, the inlay, of course, this is my first time to inlay stainless steel, and that I don't know if it went well, but it was difficult. Um, it went well because it worked, I guess. But besides that, I don't think that stainless steel presented any specific problems except a little bit of the hardness factor compared to mild steel, which I have inlaid before. But this is my first stainless inlay project, and it went really well with copper. So I'll be excited to move on to gold early next year. I plan to do that, so I'm looking forward to that. But you can see I've already cut the backbone of the scrolls, and now I'm adding in the leaves. I'm using Ray Cover's 90-degree tip, his template from Steve Lindsay. I'm using a Lindsay Classic Engraver handpiece. Um, and just taking my time, trying to really be accurate, trying to really make sure that my design, um, is translated as perfectly as possible. I had the good fortune this year to be able to go to Paris, France, and be able to study at L'École, which is um, an outreach of Van Cleef and Arpels, high-end jewelry brand at Place Vendôme in Paris, and to work just for a short few hours with some master jewelers was an incredible experience because it allowed me to really understand in-hand crafts perfect as possible, um, at least to the human eye, maybe not in the human mind, but the things that I was exposed to, the techniques that I saw, the years of experience and true mastership of their craft, these jewelers were really inspirational to me. So I looked forward to bringing some of that attitude, that mindset back, and eventually adding some of the techniques, some of the jeweler's techniques to my work, stone setting especially and specifically, inlaying fine and precious metals into something like stainless steel is something that I want to pursue even more. But in addition to that, I think that stone setting is the next natural progression after engraving, or I guess while you're engraving, to incorporate into the designs fine stonework, stone inlaid diamonds, rubies, sapphires, emeralds, create some really true beauty. A lot of people have seen, you know, are familiar with engraving through lasers. There's a place for lasers, there's a place for commercial engraving. What I'm doing is fine art engraving. I'm taking what would be a utilitarian piece and turning it into an heirloom. That's my goal. And so something as simple as, a cheap Spyderco knife or a knife that I make myself for a client, for them to commission hand engraving, not only makes it more special, it makes it truly more valuable because you're adding in work that not a lot of people have the capacity or capability to be able to do. And I say that with is in the most humble way possible because it takes patience, and I don't consider myself a patient person. But hand engraving is something that absolutely takes a lot of patience, and you have to be able to enjoy competing with yourself because there's no one you're competing with besides yourself on every single cut. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. When I had read at some point, and I can't remember the master engraver who said this, but you should be able to take any line that you cut, pull it out of the engraving, and be able to hang that line on the wall as a work of art. If you can do that over and over, by the time you get to the end, you have a beautiful masterpiece. And I believe that's absolutely correct. In my experience, it's all about competing with yourself, competing with your own skills, with your own knowledge, incremental improvement, even within a piece, from the beginning to the end. You're going to find yourself improving and learning as you go. And it's a beautiful experience, and so it's one that I enjoy very much. I plan to pursue in even bigger way and add it as a larger part of my business. So now we've seen some of the basic cuts with a 90-degree graver. Think I will let this video play out for a little while. You can see me finish the scroll, and then in videos after this, I'll kind of just move forward and explain the process as much as I understand it. I'm still a beginning engraver. I'm less than a year into my engraving journey, and I have a lot to learn, a lot to grow, and I'm looking forward to expanding my knowledge. There's going to be a lot of places that engraving is going to take me that I have to go to be able to learn what I want to learn. Um, and that's the thing I like about engraving. It's the learning. It's the constant study and improvement of not only your skills but yourself, your knowledge of materials, your knowledge of metal, your knowledge of technique, your knowledge of history. So I've hoped you've learned a little bit about me, a little bit about what I want to do, and like and subscribe. We'll continue this adventure together and see what we both can learn.